entrances and emergency exit. We have 2 ways in, 2 ways out. Out the back door if we have to, or out the door you came in. Try to keep everything filtering in. Bathroom is right around this corner with the light on and right behind this door, actually. So welcome everybody, and I always like to thank our board members, because without the board we wouldn't have these happening. Gary and Carrie and Roger and of course Carney and you. Okay, so without these guys, this couldn't possibly happen. So tonight's a special meeting that we're having. We're focusing and honoring. This is yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So tonight, tonight's meeting is going to highlight our very own Hyde Parker, Ralph Osterhoudt Sr., who's a true Hyde Park native. And he just celebrated his 98th birthday on March 15th. Ralph was born in Statsburg, one of 12 children. On January 13th of this year, there was a ceremony at the FDR Library at the Wallace Center here in Hyde Park. Senator Michelle Pinchy welcomed Ralph into the New York State Senate Veterans Hall of Fame for 2023. He was recognized for exceptional valor, an advocate of Castle Point Veterans Hospital when they were trying to close the facility, and he's a decorated World War II veteran and has a legacy of service throughout the community. Ralph was once a groundskeeper, tending to the lawns and planting trees at the Roosevelt Estate here in Hyde Park. At 15, he became a member of the Ground Observer Corps, and at 18, 3 weeks prior to high school graduation, he was drafted into World War II. Ralph was one of 30 liberators of Auschwitz, and he's a survivor of the Battle of the Bulge. That breaks my heart. These are all historically significant events, and Ralph has received a French Medal of Honor, 3 Bronze Stars, and 1 Purple Heart. So tonight, helping Ralph recall his life before us is our own Hyde Park Town historian and member of the board of the Historical Society, our very own Carney Reinwald. Please welcome both of our representatives for great stories. Okay.
You're going to have to forgive Ralph and I. Ralph is in a wheelchair, and I'm afraid that if I stand up, I'm going to knock this over, and then the whole program will be wrong. Right? All right. I would like to make a couple announcements before we start our interview. I'm going to interview him like on television. I'll be the host of the Tonight Show or something, and Ralph will be the invited guest. I tried, the first announcement is, I tried to ring the bell in the back, but the cord broke, right? I was going to ring it in honor of John Golden. He used to love to ring that bell. That was his... John and Gloria Golden sunk a lot of money into this building. They, I think it was about 10 years ago, to remodel the building. And I was going to ring the bell in his honor, but it didn't happen. So, the second announcement is that tomorrow, March 20th, is the 142nd anniversary of the christening of Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the very spot where Ralph and I are sitting. They didn't have the christening at the main church. They had it here because the main church didn't have any heat, but they had the fireplace out in the other room so they could get some heat. And Franklin Roosevelt was only 2 months old when he had his christening. And so they had it here. Sarah Roosevelt was always very protective of Franklin Roosevelt, her son. Just like my wife was very protective of our son. But Franklin had 2 godfathers. One was Elliott Roosevelt, who happened to be the father of Eleanor Roosevelt, and the other was Will Forbes. And the people sitting in the pews were all captains of industry and finance. The Hudson River Valley families, the very rich, wealthy families. So here's something for you to think about. Where you're sitting now, sat some of these very rich people, and maybe some of their luck in the financial world will rub off on your bodies. So think about that. So if, well, I guess we can start should we do another sound test, Ralph? Have you got the microphone close enough to your face? Or?
Can you hear me okay?
His voice is stronger than mine, so I shouldn't be worried about him. But what we'd like to do is we'd like to talk about more than, and like Sharon said, he's recently been honored for his World War II experiences. But we're going to talk about his Hyde Park experiences. And what I'd like to do is start about Ralph's childhood in a very large family. He had 12 children in the family. There were 12 children in the family. And they lived on South Cross Road on a 20-acre farm. So a large family on a small farm. So all of the kids had to work. Am I correct with that, Ralph? All right.
We didn't have to work. We wanted to work. There's a difference being told to do something and do it, then just have your parents mention, tomorrow we got to cultivate the beans. That night after school, the beans was cultivated before it got dark. Nobody asked us to do it. We just did it because we wanted to. Even though there was 12 of us, we never had any problem. We didn't have any money, but you have to remember, we were born, most of us, before the Depression. Before. That's a long time ago. And there was no money then, and everybody was wondering what's going to happen before the Depression. There was no money, no jobs, no money, no nothing, right? You lived off of what you grew in the backyard. And my mother would can everything. Sometimes she would have 1,500 quart jars of food, from berries to everything that was grown. And the amazing thing about that, you can't realize, but out of those 15 jars, there was stuff put in with those fruits and vegetables and things, and it was only water. You can imagine what we're eating now when we eat things. And we were brought up on stuff that was raised in the backyard, and it was only preserved with water. And somebody says, what do you figure was the secret to your longevity? Well, in the first 18 years, we ate what you're supposed to eat. We had 3 square meals a day. That was before Dunkin' Donuts and all the other good stuff. You know? And that was one thing about it. But we worked. I don't ever remember my mother and father ever was telling us, you have to do something. We just did it. And we had a blind horse, we called it out, and she was there, and we used to hook her up to a four-wheel wagon and put two 50-ounce barrels on the back of it, and we'd go down to the creek, down to 9G. 9G was a two-lane dirt road then. We used to go down and sit in the middle of the creek and dip out the water to fill the 100 gallons. Then we bring, and that's what was our, not actually for us, it was for the animals. And it was quite amazing that where we got the fresh water from. The state was down on 9G down there where that store is, a grocery store. If you go a little bit on the other way, on that corner, there was a water coming out of that mountain. And there was always a line of traffic waiting to fill their jugs with, it was glass jugs because plastic wasn't invented yet, which is quite difficult for people to realize. But how'd you go along with no plastic? Well, we never even heard the word. I mean, plastic was that up. And so we used to go down by there, stand there on the road and fill the jugs full. Wait in line sometimes an hour and a half to get in line to get to fill the jugs. Because there was no electric. The electric didn't come on the South Gross Road to 1939. And so we lived quite a few years without electric, but we managed. I don't know how come we got 12 people living in a house, and there was kerosene lights all over, sitting all night long. We used to burn the kerosene lights. Somebody wanted to get up in the middle of the night, we had kerosene. How can that happen? How come we didn't catch fire? Well, there was open flames there all night long. There was 7 or 8 of them. But it was okay. We just knew to stay away from them. But there were so many things that people don't understand. Now, there was no such thing as ice cubes. You know, my father used to work Saturdays part-time down in Stafford, and he used to go down there and saw the ice. It was about this thick. And then he would put it on a sled and bring it up to Stafford and about the back of Hay Hughes' store there. And there was a building there. I bought it a few years ago and I sold it. But there was a building there that where they kept the ice, so it lasted almost to April. And when I bought the building, I took the top story down and I noticed the walls were this thick. And the only thing that kept that ice on it was newspapers and sawdust. And amazing how that can keep that ice all winter like that. But it worked, right? But it was a question when we were kids that we had the highest regard for my mother and father. All the years that I lived home, I never heard one single swear word, right? I got 2 sisters here, right? Nobody swore. Nobody drank. Nobody gambled. It was really old-fashioned family, but it worked all right, didn't it? It's things you don't have to do. Let's prove that. And we're grateful, and then it soon ended. I often said that the first 18 years of my life, was the worst 18 years because we went from depression, or from before depression, which was nothing at all, no jobs, no money, no nothing. During depression, after depression, right into the war. So those first 18 years wasn't much to brag about, right? But we did get a good bringing up, I would say that. And then when I was 18, like everybody else knows, you signed up because you were 18. Little did you know that when you went to the town hall and signed up that you were 18, you were admitting yourself to get into the army or get into. You didn't know that, but after about 2 weeks after you went to Albany, they got a letter to send you to Albany, so you went to Statsburg, got on the train, went to Albany, and you came back. You didn't really know that you had signed up for service. Yeah, you didn't know it until you got the letter from a driftboard telling you to report for altitude, and everybody who went there, everybody came back. If you know what I mean, none of them, and they came back, and they just waited, now what's going on, and you get a letter report to Fort Dix. And you didn't even know you were in the service. So that was.
So Ralph has told me I got to stop him every now and then. So Ralph, are both of your sisters here, or just?
Yeah, one right here.
One right here.
And one here.
If you can stand up, please do.
I don't know. They can't stand.
What you're
Oh, you
asking.
can't?
I don't know. Yeah.
Now, I've got to ask you, is Ralph telling the truth? Nobody ever swore in your family?
Never.
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 Okay, so we got that verified now.
Proud of it.
Very proud of it. All right. Well,
Never got hit, never swore.
All right. So I have another question for Ralph. He told me that he worked at the farm where the Franklin Delano Roosevelt High School is now. And I've been telling everybody it was the Hughes farm, but that was wrong. It was the Haynes farm, right? And I would like to know where the barn was. Was it behind there's still the house there. There's a big white house. I think they made it into 2 or 3 apartments. The Haynes house is still there across the road from Franklin Delano Roosevelt High School. And I'd like to know where the barn was. It was behind the house, or was it across the road from the...
So you just got in the driveway, and the big barns was on the left-hand side, right there. There's nothing there now.
It was on the same side of the road as the house?
No, it's across the driveway from the house.
Across the driveway.
Yeah, and
There's a big subdivision there now. Maybe somebody in the audience lives on Gloria Drive. I think that Gloria Drive was named after Gloria Golden, because that was a Golden subdivision.
where all those houses are, I used to work there. From one end of the fields to the other fields, the other end. And I went to work there. Even I went to school and went to work. I got up I got up 4:30 in the morning, rode my bicycle a couple miles. And it wasn't a couple miles, but maybe a mile. Okay, but it was far enough to get pretty cold by the time you got down to the barn. And I got down there, and I used to hand milk 10 cows. Then I would go home, get cleaned up, and go to school. And I remember so well, I had to do that at night. And there was 2 buses at the school, one for north and one for south. If you lived less than 2 miles from Stassford School, you walk to school. But anyway, I used to work there, and John Golden, and he was here, and I'll tell you the story. I got out of school, and I had to go and sit in the bus to wait for people like John Golden, Avery Corman, and a lot of people from Lancaster 7. And I used to cry that I had to go home, and I wasn't able to go and play baseball. Now, I worked on a farm, and I was in pretty good shape. So every time I would play, everybody wanted me to get there on the team because I was at home runs, right? So I was in pretty good shape. But I feel so that I was maybe cheated a little bit, that I wasn't allowed. No, I was allowed, and nobody said anything. But you want to remember during the professional athlete that it's all about survival. You know, even though it's a coat, good-sized coat, was only $8 or $9, you want to remember I worked 7 days a week from 4:30 in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. And I got $10 a week. So $10 was a lot of money. You could buy a lot of stuff, $10. But it's hard to believe that when I worked in the post office, and I have proof of this. I'm not telling you anything I don't have proof with, because I don't believe that. And if you notice, I don't have any notes. When you tell the truth, you don't need notes. When you lie, you forgot what the lie was. So you don't need notes, right? So it was not right to me that I had to.
The school that you're talking about is still there. It's now owned by the Taconic State Parks Commission. It's their headquarters. It's as you turn off of Route 9 and down onto the Albany Post Road, it's the big building on your left as you're going into Statsburg. And Ralph told me, I don't know if you remember, this was about 20 years ago, when they were remodeling that old school, it was vacant for a while, that there was a time capsule buried in the front yard of the school. And we looked around with a metal detector and we couldn't find that time capsule. Do you remember that incident?
I know too, because the time that time capsule was put in there, I was on the school board. So the state, somebody from the state called me up there and asked me if I knew where the time capsule was. I said, yeah. I was standing on the front porch of the school when I buried it. So he said, well, can you show me yet? I said, I have to stand on the front porch. And I did. And I pointed to him, because I stood right in the middle of the front porch, and it was right straight ahead. And I don't know why he couldn't find it.
Well, maybe my metal detector wasn't working properly.
I think maybe it might be when they put the new road through there, they didn't know what they just threw it away. Yeah. I went there the first year, 1931. That school was built and opened. And it was open, it took a while to open it because they were waiting for the bell. That was at the top of the school. They were waiting for that, and that was late. So the school was a couple of weeks late opening. But I went there the first day. And my two oldest, Richard and Alberta, then went to the old school, the original Asbury school. There was no more than a 4-bedroom house type of thing. And they went to there, but I was one for sure. And one time, I have Renee Biller gave me a thing of the Statsburg School, 1931, and I have it. Right? You might have a copy in the library because I got
in the museum.
1931, yeah. There was literally, by the time, in the 40s, there was literally an Osterhoudt in each class. There was 12 of us in each one. So we were kind of organized.
Can we go on to something else?
All right, just have to stop me.
He mentioned that Ralph mentioned that he rode his bicycle to school, but he also rode it to the World War II observation post
Yeah.
up on the hill, not too far from where Woodpecker Deli is now, but it used to be Hilltop Deli.
Yeah.
And if you can tell us a little bit about what you did at the observation post. It was for spotting airplanes. For some reason, we had a case of national paranoia, and we thought that the Nazis were going to bomb Hyde Park. But Ralph was one of the observers, maybe one of the youngest ones, I don't know.
I think maybe I was right. They had an observation. They built a little observation building. It was about maybe 6 by 6, and the way it was heated was with a Coleman lantern. That's how small it was. A Coleman lantern heated it, and there was nothing in there but a chair and a window looking up towards the river. And there was a phone in it that was connected to Roosevelt's house. You picked it up, and the MPs from Roosevelt's home answered the phone. If you saw any activity at all, day or night, over the Hudson River, we packed it up because we were guarding Roosevelt's home. That's what we're there for. And after I got through the working, I get on my bicycle, and I would kind of up there. I've done it quite for a few years, I know. It was a long job, and the girls used to do it during the day when we went there with the school. The girls would do it during the day because they had permission to leave the school. So they would go up there, and the guys would come up. My tour was from 8 at night to midnight. And I used to ride my bicycle up there at 8 o'clock and go home at midnight. And we've done that for a couple of years. I'm disappointed that they didn't put a sign up out by the road recognizing that. They put one in Hyde Park about that. You may have seen where the Rhinebeck Savings Bank is. There's a sign there because they have one in Hyde Park. But
Can you imagine how cold it must have been? This was in the winter. So,
yeah, it wasn't. What's it? Thank you very much.
I think I'll have a swig too. It's water.
Thank you.
I made the mistake of asking Ralph, did you ever sneak some beer into the observation post? And he said, no, absolutely not. We had a job to do, and we did it. And I felt like an idiot asking him that question, but I imagine now if we were doing something like that, the teenagers would weigh up to bring in some beer or marijuana or something worse. So, but not Ralph, all right? Do you remember when I asked you that?
Yeah. No, I never done like that. I'm just going to touch a second on World War II because I can't really talk about it. Right. What admires me the most about this United States, Pearl Harbor, within 24 hours, the whole United States was one more armed Everybody within 24 hours was out there. We knocked on those kids right there. They went from house to house, their papers, newspapers. And the biggest, this might amuse you, but think about it. The biggest thing that we were after, the year before World War II, pantyhose come out. That's what we were after. That's what the kids were after, is pantyhose. Because pantyhose is not artificial silk, it's real silk. The silk you get today, that's artificial. That pantyhose is spider webs. Nothing is stronger than spider webs. They use the pantyhose for parachutes when they come down. That's what the parachute with ropes was made from pantyhose. And every person was out there knowing or buying things. Everybody went to work. Nobody complained. We were one nation, one. We didn't have to worry about Milwaukee. And nobody had any money, really. Not during the Depression.
I'm sure Ralph can add a lot to what I'm about to say, but I'm going to read one paragraph. It's not too long. Ralph wrote this for this book, The Home Front at Roosevelt's Hometown. He wrote 3 or 4 pages. This is one paragraph that he wrote. An interesting event happened during our stay at Colmar. Colmar was they called it the Colmar Pocket. It was part of Germany, and the pocket was where the Americans had first reached into Germany. We were very lucky to find a building that was intact enough for our communications center. In this, we set up our command post and switchboard operations. One night, about 2 or 3 a.m., I was sure I heard a noise like a baby crying. The night was still quiet and cold, and I figured I must be mistaken about the crying. I called the officer of the day, and he arrived to investigate. It was dark, damp, and without any windows outside. The nature of the sounds, going into the basement with guns drawn. There, settled in a corner, were 19 persons with 2 infants. They had been there for quite some time without us knowing. Our medics were called. We gave the babies our rations of dried milk, attended their medical problems, gave them fresh clothes, and helped them get to another home with their neighbors. It was our opportunity to repay the German civilians for the kind of treatment they had given us in other towns. They thought we were going to kill them. They even begged for their lives. I apologize, I have a hard time reading this because I get very emotional, and I'm sure Ralph does too. But this is a war story that's good. It's not a war story about killing people. So, if you want to say anything about World War II, you're welcome to.
I was a switchboard operator, and I heard this noise. 3 o'clock in the morning, so I called the MTPs right there on duty, checking. And I know I heard the babies out. They went downstairs, loaded guns, and there was 19 people down there. 2 of them were infants. So I called the kitchen and told them to get some food together. We've got 19 people here, needs to be fruit. Meanwhile, they were praying to us all the time, "Oh, don't kill me, don't kill me." Well, we didn't because we couldn't, first of all. So what we done, we got our ration. I told them the kitchen and everything, and I told them get something to eat out, so they got our dry food. All the dry food we had was potatoes and eggs and things, and they prepared it, and then we took them over there and fed them, and we gave them something to eat. And I know we could have got court-martialed for doing that. We didn't have any right to bring in. They were Germans too. You can't, it didn't make any difference. They were people. It didn't make a difference if they're Germans or what they were people. And we didn't even know it, but we took care of them, and I said, "Oh my God, now we're not going to have any eggs tomorrow morning because the kids ate all the eggs." And the babies, we had dried milk, right? So they fixed that up, put some water on that, and that's what we gave the babies, the kids, right? And that was a wonderful thing that we did, right? That was great. We had a chance to do that. I don't have no idea how long they lived there, were there.
Well,
They must have been absolutely quiet 24 hours a day.
well, how long was your operation set up in the upstairs? They might have scurried down cellar, and then when you came in, they didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
So,
But we just set up, there was only going to be there for 3 or 4 days, and then we moved our guns and got out of there. But there's a lot of stories like that, I'm sure.
well, Ralph has a lot of stories about the Battle of the Bulge. He's probably the only living veteran in Hyde Park of the Battle of the Bulge. I certainly don't know of any others, but that was
The only people that was in the Battle of Bulge, simple math, the only people that was in the Battle of Bulge, they would have been 98, same as me. Because you don't know it, but the Battle of Bulge, 9 out of 10 people in the Battle of Bulge, and it was 250,000 killed. It's just unbelievable when you go to Normandy in Luxembourg and see the graves. And you look at those graves, they deliberately don't put on a grave, military grave, in combat when you were killed, because you could have been killed a week ago. Because it was winter time, and you could have been killed and laid there for a week. What we used to do when we moved our guns to blow up the small bridges on the run, what we used to do is stop, and a couple of us, each guy would pick them up and take them and put them up on the back, and they were there for a week. But I remember saying to one time, "No, we don't want to take them nowhere. Leave them here. They're not cold anymore. They're not hungry anymore. They're not homesick anymore, right?" So we piled them up alongside.
Ralph went to Normandy, was it about 5 years ago with Mike Athanas?
A couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago,
Yeah.
Mike Athanas and Ralph went representing the local American Legion, and I've heard from other people that it's very moving to go to the cemeteries in Normandy, because it's just, it's not acres and acres, it's hundreds of acres and hundreds of acres. And there's a story that in France, there was a lot of after the war, there was some anti-American sentiment for some reason. I don't know where it came from, but one of the leaders in France demanded that every American soldier should leave France. I guess that it was at a time when the Communist Party was on the rise in France, all right? So the United States ambassador to France said, "Are you talking about the Americans that are alive, or are you talking about the ones that are in the ground?" And that was the end of the discussion. Everybody stopped right there talking about getting out of France. So, we're talking about France now. You went to an electrician's technician school in Biarritz, France. Does anybody know where Biarritz, France is? Everybody knows where Paris is.
Yeah.
Tatiana, do you know where Biarritz is? Shame on you, Tatiana. Tatiana and I went to Biarritz, France, on Tatiana's 30th birthday. It's just across the border from Spain. And
It's on the coast.
it's on the coast, the Atlantic coast.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And Tatiana and I went into Spain, but what I can remember about Biarritz, maybe I should shame on myself, is I remember we went to the beach at Biarritz, and it was a nude beach. So that's what I remember.
You been there?
Yes, I've been to Biarritz.
Well, that's where the
I remember the women at Biarritz.
That's in Biarritz at the time, the United States took it over, all right? And most of the instructors was from Vassar College or something like that. It was and how I got to go to Biarritz. I worked in the headquarters office because I was the only one in our unit that knew how to use the German decoding machine, because I was a new recruit come over, and I had been trained for how to use the German decoding machine, and nobody else knew how to do that, right? And I knew how to read semaphore and all these things I was taught. So all the people wanted to kind of get a hold of me. Well, anyway, I was in Patton's headquarters in Heidelberg, right? And I was to open up the mail. So I opened up the mail, and it was almost every day there was a place that the government is asking you if you might want to go, right? Most of the time it was just for 10 people. So I would hang up the letter, right? Now most of the guys, they were interested, they didn't want to leave Heidelberg because they had a girlfriend there. And if they came back, if they went away for 6 months, when they come back, the girlfriend would be gone. You know? So, but I wasn't interested in that. I wanted to learn, right? And I opened it up, and from someplace I wanted to go, I went to London, I went to Paris, and this thing come up there one day for 10 people to go to Biarritz. Man, I ripped that thing down. When the 8th person got on it, I already got up, I tore it off the wall, and I was the first one listed. You know, that's okay, I had a right to do that, even though so that's the way I went to Biarritz. It was a beautiful college. I didn't know you had been there.
And it helped you in your whole career, right?
That's where the song of Bernadette was made, in Biarritz. Yeah, you know what that is. That's the song for where people go and drink the water there. And it was a movie song. So I was happy, and for that 10 months I went there. I learned electricity 101 and graphic arts. That's the subjects I was taking, right? And can you imagine going there? When I came home, it was like 10 years. I was a delivery man. I didn't like the job at all. So I formed my business. For those times I went to Biarritz, my sons are still in business yet today, 65 years later. So that's what one guy did with the education he got from Germany. It was so much different. And it was so much different in World War II than it is what they're coming over. I would have to tell you the people, and I apologized. Well, my son was a Vietnam vet. I apologized. So every chance I get, I apologize from the Legion to the people that came. I apologize to them for the way they were treated by the American, by everybody. They were spit on. Because when I came home, Helen Kronk, who was the postmaster in Stadsburg, she made the regular mailman out of Stadsburg wait before he quit because she wanted me to have a job. When I came home, my dad's job was, I'd come home on a Friday and I went to work on a Monday morning. That's the way we people from World War II were used. That way we were honors. I have a book that I could show you that's 50 pages long. Thousands of people here in Hyde Park gave money for a parade. There was a parade, I swear to God, it was three miles long here in Hyde Park. Welcome to World War II. And I don't think that any of you people probably are Vietnam people, but if you are, I apologize on behalf of the American Legion, because the American Legion would not accept you when you came home, and I apologize. Of course they do now, but that's the way things were, the difference. And it's not right in some of the things. Now, if any of you people have been to Paris, we're not welcome in Paris. I've been there 10 times. We really aren't. We're really not welcome in Paris. This is the absolutely God's honest truth. When we got over the line, well, we got in France. We slept outside the barn with pigs and cows and whatever. All we want to do is get out of the snow. There's no place there was heat, so we got kind of used to that. In France, they would not let us get in their house. All we wanted to do was just knock on the door and go in and lay down on the living room floor. The French would not let us. As soon as we got in Germany, all we wanted was knock in any house. And if, the German that we spoke, they knew what we were talking about, and they got out and went next door to the neighbors. 2 or 3 times we were laying on the floor, and we was there maybe a half hour, and a knock come on the door. This was in Germany, right? These people were out there killing them, and they're killing us, right? And yet they opened the door and let us in. And I remember laying on the floor, and a knock came, and it was a little old woman like this, her hands like this, with big thick blankets. She brought the big blankets in, there was a bottle of wine on the top of it, or a loaf of bread, whatever they had, And we stayed there. The next morning we left. And the only thing we had was Hershey bars, so we gave them Hershey bars. And we had cigarettes, but I sold mine. I used to pay $1 a cart for cigarettes. The Biarritz, I did that. You know where the 50 go, you go down underneath there all right? I used to get cartons of cigarettes. I used to get about $20 for them. a carton, and I only paid $1 for them. So now, that's not the half of it. You're only allowed to send home, all right, the money that you earn. And your salary was like $65 a month, right? But you could only send home 65. So I kind of want to figure that out, that I took the money, you know, and I got the money, I bought airmail stamps with it. I bought airmail stamps, 6 sets airmail stamps, you know. And what I used to do is I would buy the airmail stamps, send them home to my mother. Did you know that? I sent them home to her, right? The airmail stamps. She took them to the post office, right? Because in the post office, I think at that time airmail was like 15, maybe 15 or 20 cents. So I saved $1,200 and buying stamps and selling them. I bought them some cigarettes in France, beers, and I sent them home, and my mother would take them to the post office. All this stuff you get away with during the war. You know, you wouldn't get away with it today. You ain't got away selling stamps, right?
How are we doing on time? We got timekeepers here.
7:56.
Okay.
All right, so we got time for a few questions, but not a lot of questions. Ralph told me I've got to stop him. He'll get off on a tirade, and I've got to stop him, all right? So there's got to be some questions that you can ask. Maybe from Ralph's sister. No questions. Okay.
What order, Ralph, are you the oldest child? It sounds like you had 2 older siblings. Where did you fall in the 12?
Actually, Ralph and I are both hard of hearing, so.
So where does he fall in the line of siblings? Is he the oldest? Are you the second? Where are you in the
The
line of
fifth
siblings?
one.
Fifth.
I was the fifth one, and I was the last one to be born at home. We lived on the South Cross Road, and this might make you smile, but at the time, it's the way it was. We lived on South Cross Road, 2 houses down was the Horn. One was on the Emily Horn, Gladdy Horn, right? And she used to go in a midwife. And she born, right? She walked through 2 feet of snow because it was a blizzard when I was born. She walked through 2 feet of snow. And you know what she got paid for that? You know how much she got paid? Was a bushel of apples and a bushel of corn. I don't expect you to believe that, but it's goddamn, that was the truth. There was no money, but there was food. It was a barter system. Go to the president, you had no money. The people you're dealing with, it was all a barter. You go to your neighbors and get the berries, and then he come to you, and you get the apples or something, you know? It was all barter system.
Is your house still there?
You remember, I was the fifth one. At that time, they went to the St. Francis Hospital, and I have a receipt home. I have a receipt that's now, 75 years old, that the maternity doctor got $75 for the pre-labor baby, and when the baby was born, and after that, he got $75, right? And I also have a receipt from the St. Francis that while she was there for 9 days, because years ago when you had a baby, you tangle on your bed after 4 days. Then you stayed there 9 days. When you had a baby, you stayed there 9 days, right? So my bill for that was for the 9 days. Well, I think it's $77, $78 for the 9 days in the hospital. I have those receipts. I'm very stupidly kept with it. I do have them.
Yeah, there's another question, 2 more questions.
You mentioned Patton's headquarters. You served in the Third Army.
Yes, I did. Yes. I had my cane in the car, and I had the 30 on, and I was sitting on the ground.
Another question. Go ahead.
Did any of your, were any of your brothers in the World War II as well with you? Were you the only one?
Were any of your brothers in World War
brothers in
II?
World War II?
No, I was the only one.
You were the only one out of 12 that,
Wow. No, the one in World War II. Irv was, he's on the Missouri. Irv's on the Missouri, right? Yeah, he's on the Missouri.
Missouri, yes, when the peace treaty.
And there was one time there was 4 of us in the service. I remember
Yes.
on the South Coast Road, we had the flag hanging in for 4 of us. But the 5th one was Wallace. He's right here. He was drafted, all right? Well, he was drafted, but he didn't go in because the Sullivan brothers died. If you people know what the Sullivan brothers, then 5 of them went down. And from that time on, 4 of you could be in service, but the 5th one didn't have to go in. So Wally was great that he missed that, all right? But my brother Irv, he's on the Missouri.
He's the only one in the Navy.
Yes.
We have another question.
Ralph, did you go through any of the concentration camps?
well, we're not going to talk about that. Ralph did, but he's told me, and I don't want to.
It's the worst
I don't want
time.
him to worry.
I'm just going to mention a couple of things. I'll leave the rest of it alone. I was the first of the 30 people that went through Auschwitz. The first of the 30 people that went through Auschwitz. And we knew where we were going. There was 5 Jeeps and the 5 guys, first 5 guys. And we got to a hill that we could see Auschwitz, and 2 of the Jeeps went back. They couldn't make it any further because of the smell. But we went there because we wanted to see if there was even one person there, we wanted to see him.
Marty's shaking his head. He wants to stop at that. All right.
How about high school, Ralph? You were drafted before you graduated from high school.
I was drafted in high school, and I had 2 weeks to go to graduate my class. But they wouldn't let me graduate my class. But I did graduate 57 years later. It's not one of these other ones you get. It's a bona fide diploma. How did this school system ever get that? Every one of you people, I bet you can go to Dutchess County and find out your marks in high school. That must be where they got it from. 57 years later. And a person came down from Pataki's office, from Auburn down. He's the one that presented it. So he got up there and he said, well, he says, I've done a little bit of this, going to graduations. He said, but it's the first time that I ever went to graduation when I presented a senior. And I was only half on it. And Bruce, where are you?
Here.
Oh, Bruce didn't come? Okay. And I went in with the seniors, walked right down the line with the seniors. When I get up on the stage, they were telling me. So I got there and he said to me, he says, well, I know I've never given a speech for a senior citizen, but this is a little bit too much. He says, I got up on the stage, which he did. We were sitting up on the stage. He said, and it's the first high school graduation that I ever been to that the son-in-law of the graduation person is in the...
All right, we got one more question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that Roger's daughter, Liz Culp, and our daughter graduated in 2001. And we were thrilled to have you there when you got your degree.
Two people graduated in 2001 with you.
Oh, and he knew about it then. He were in
Rogers, though,
Yeah,
yes.
He said, it's the first time he said I ever saw a son-in-law. He said, at my high school graduation. Yeah. Oh, was there somebody here who graduated that year?
Their daughter.
Our children.
Yeah.
Children
Their
did.
children.
Yeah, okay.
We were excited to see you.
Yeah. That was, I think, in 2001.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you getting tired or not?
I'm going to retire.
Well, I know he's retired, but are you getting tired?
Do I have to retire?
No. No.
How many are you back?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But there's so many stories, there's so many things.
Well, we can always speak with Ralph in the hall, some more, but thank you, you two. Thank you, Ralph,
Yeah.
for coming out, and Martin for bringing him.
And,
Are there any refreshments out there?
Yeah, there's
We have
some
water,
snacks,
some
there's
water,
cookies.
some snacks.
Roberta made us something.
I just want to thank you all
Thank you.
for coming, because that's important to me, that you took the time and come, and there's certain things I really wanted you to know. I really want you people to know how many millions of 18-year-old guys died. It's terrible. 18-year-old guys are going to cemetery, and every 5 graves, there would be just one that wasn't born in 1925 or 1926. And then I told you they just don't like to have you.
I don't know if Ralph is aware of the statistics, but right now there are 21,000 people in Hyde Park, within the boundaries of Hyde Park. In World War II, when the war started, there were 5,000. And 19 of those soldiers and sailors didn't come back. They died during, and one of them was Franklin Roosevelt. He was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And Hyde Park should be very proud of our history. We sent a lot of our boys and girls who are now men and women. There were several women that went, so we should be very proud of our history. My own wife is very proud of her history too. The Russians were allies with Americans, so I'm proud of my wife's history also. So I guess we can file out, right?
Yep, April 30th is our next meeting. We're moving back to the Methodist Church. And Bill Merchant from D&H Canals will be speaking. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ralph.